I calibrated my LG C1 OLED for native HDR using a mobile app. Okay? And is that something that I recommend you to try? Absolutely. Okay? And this is very simple. You try the settings I'm gonna share with you, and you go before, after. Okay? You have two different picture presets, so you can switch back and forth immediately, so you can notice the differences. That's the only way. So I would recommend you to try these settings, for example, on Vivid, the picture preset Vivid. You change all the settings from Vivid mode, of course. You change the color, saturation, everything. So it is set up the same way as you would set up game optimizer mode. And then you have the picture preset that is next to Vivid with the regular HDR settings that you use normally. So let's say you have Vivid with my settings, and you have a standard with the settings you normally use. And this is going to allow you to see the difference in real time, very fast, because there's no disabling processing of the TV to improve the input lag. Because when you change to game optimizer mode, the picture goes to dark for a moment, and that's gonna make it a little bit more difficult to see the differences. But when you see the difference happening, boom, real time, you will definitely notice that. So now, if you're playing a game like this, you're not gonna see any difference, okay? Because there's red HDR popping. It's almost impossible to notice the difference here. But look at skin tones. You will definitely see a difference, because what I did with these settings was very simple. I used this mobile app to make sure that the temperature, the color temperature, was consistent across the entire gray scale. Okay? And I accomplished that. I got 6500K. So now, regardless of the accuracy of the measurement, what I definitely achieved was consistency. Okay? So in my experience, trying multiple calibrations, it doesn't matter if it's 6500K, if it is 6300K, 6000K, it doesn't matter. Okay? Of course, you can definitely see the difference if you calibrate with a warmer temperature. And actually, you're gonna like it more. I love it. My eyes love a warmer temperature because it has less blue lights. Okay, so our eyes just prefer that. But in my experience, what really makes a difference is consistency across the entire gray scale. Okay, so forget about perfect D65. If you don't have professional instruments for calibration, forget about that. It doesn't matter. You're not going to achieve that. Okay, for D65 you need the exact XYZ coordinates. You're not getting that with this app. So now you can definitely test the accuracy of the measurement on your cell phone, pointing a 6500K light source directly to the camera, and you should get 6500K. And if you don't, then you can calibrate the mobile app. But the readings on my cell phone, they seem to be pretty accurate, because I have light sources at home, and I even have these studio lights that I can change the color temperature, and I see what they are rated for, and my cell phone app is reading the color temperature of these lights very accurately, exactly the same that they are rated for. So I believe it's very close. But the most important thing is 6500K across the entire grayscale. Okay, it's a flat line, so it's very consistent. That's why it looks so good. It looks very, very good. So now, the second thing that I am accomplishing with these settings is I am controlling the magenta to green balance. Okay, so for this white balance, this app is going to show you a magenta to green balance. And this is very, very important to get right in the perfect place for the skin tones. So out of the box, in my opinion, and based on what I can clearly see, it is leaning towards green a little bit. And as a consequence, the skin tones look green. Okay? So what I did was I tried multiple calibrations to find out on my cell phone camera what is the magenta to green balance that is just right. Okay? So out of the box, for example, what I am reading is 0.003 leaning towards green with my cell phone. I tried calibrating with 0.001, 0.002 leaning towards green, and the results are like this. If I do 0.001, it looks a little bit magenta, okay? And when I tell you that, it doesn't mean that everything looks magenta, no, it's just very, very subtle difference, but I can clearly see that, and actually it looks very good. And I guess that looks maybe closer to a QD OLED. Based on what I've seen, that might look very close to a QD OLED. It definitely looks very close to my Pioneer Kuro because it is leaning towards magenta too. And then I try 0.002 leaning towards green, and it still look a little bit magenta, but it looks the best. It looks very, very, very good. And then I calibrate it, keeping it at 0.003 across the entire grayscale, and that looks a little bit green. So I realized that between 0.002 and 0.003 is the sweet spot. And what I did with these settings that I'm gonna share with you is that I calibrated going below 0.003 and then just one click to the green or one adjustment. It can be to, to red also. One adjustment to get the balance from 0.002 to 0.003. Okay, so it is 0.003, which is the same as the factory calibration with warm 50, but it is a little bit lower, if that makes sense. So I'm lowering it, it goes to 0.002, then I one click, boom, 0.003. So I have the entire grayscale 6500K leaning towards green 0.003. So now that depends on the camera. Okay, your camera might be reading that right in the middle, zero. Magenta to green balance right in the middle. That might be ideal. It depends on the camera. You have to learn by making multiple calibrations to see which one is the best. So this is very simple. I'm gonna share the settings. You try it, see if you like it, and then you do your own calibration and compare your own calibration with my settings and see which one is better and try again. Do the calibration multiple times. This is going to absolutely teach you a lot about your TV. You're going to learn a lot how the TV behaves, how it calibrates, how it looks before and after calibration. What is that you're changing when you're changing these numbers? And it has been a lot of fun for me. Okay, so if you're a display enthusiast, you should definitely give it a try. It's a lot of fun. So I'm selecting 2-point calibration, high, and these are the values. Blue -11, green -6. So now, when I do this, the lower end of the grayscale goes below 6500K. So when I do that, everything that is after 50% signal level is 6500K. The magenta to green balance is exactly the way I described. But when you go below, it starts dropping. So what I have to do is I have to increase the blue for the lower end of the grayscale, but I discovered that I cannot increase this low point. I cannot, because I raised the black levels, and it is so difficult to notice. It is almost imperceptible. I'm telling you, the black level raise that we have in games is huge. I mean, we can see that from a mile away. This is something that in a dark room, so if I increase blue here to 4, in a completely dark room, I have to put my nose on the screen to see the pixels are on. And it's not all the pixels, it's just some isolated pixels that are like a centimeter away from each other. It's just so minor black level raise, but it happens. So what I have to do is, instead of raising the blue here on the low point, I have to use a 22-point calibration to balance that color temperature across the entire grayscale. So the other thing that I discovered was that with this 22-point calibration, I can raise even the lowest code value to the maximum number, and the black level doesn't get raised. So I can come here to this code value 15, which is the minimum, and increase red, green, and blue to 50, which is the maximum, and the black level doesn't get raised at all. Okay, so that was a fun experiment. Also, the other thing that I noticed, and this, I posted this on a community post. All the settings are gonna be in the description. You can just copy it, go there and copy it. I'm just sharing, things that I've learned. This might help you if you do the calibration yourself. The other thing that I noticed with raising this low point on the 2-point calibration to 4, 5, or anything you raise it really, is that it causes image retention. Like, for example, I have a completely black wallpaper for my PC, for the desktop. If I have anything bright on the screen and then I minimize it, it causes image retention, okay, without black frame insertion. But when I use black frame insertion, and that image retention, by the way, it stays there. It doesn't clear up. It's not like the image retention you would see if you have a 10% white window at full blast, and then you change to a gray slide. You will see image retention, but that image retention will clear very fast. The image retention I'm talking about here that happens when you increase this low point, it stays for a very long time. So I noticed that if I use OLED Motion Pro High, for once there's no black level raise, because OLED Motion Pro High just kills those pixels. It just crushes those pixels. But I still see the image retention momentarily. But the black frame insertion clears the image retention so much faster. It is like incredible. I was like blown away. I thought, man, this is clearly an evidence that black frame insertion is protective against burning. And I am not saying that to tell you that, oh, you should always use black frame insertion so you don't get burning. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, burning is not a problem anymore. Okay, you should use your TV, enjoy it, forget about burning. But just for scientific exploration and just to learn about how these things work, it was very interesting to me to see how black frame insertion was clearing that image retention beautifully. It was fantastic. Like, I was blown away with this mistake that I made by increasing the low point. So making mistakes is very important. It's so good. You need to make a lot of mistakes to really learn. So now let me show you the 22-point calibration. So you saw the 2 points with a high. This is all you have to do, -11, -6. And just by doing that, you get most of the effect. But now to fine tune everything so it is consistent, let me show you. We're gonna start here in code value 15. I changed nothing. Then code value 48, and I have HGIG. No black level setting. This game doesn't have the black level raise. Code value 48, red -3, blue -3. So now the second thing that I learned with my experience is we shouldn't touch the red for the 2-point calibration for the high, because we don't want to get clipping on the red. The red color is challenging on this WRGB OLEDs, but in the low point, especially going down, it is useful to touch the red, because we can easily increase the color temperature by lowering the red and fix the magenta to green balance sometimes a lot easier. So if you see yourself having to increase the blue too much, better reduce the red. See? So the blue and the red, they're gonna control the color temperature and you have to understand how you can get the effect you're looking for without changing the balance between this red, green, and blue too much. Basically, how to achieve the result you're looking for with the minimum changes here. So what I learned is that yes, touch red in the lower end. It's okay. It's not a big deal. So there you go. That's what we're doing in 48. So 135 minus 1 minus 1, 0. 218, 0 minus 1, 2. 282, 004. 332, 005. 374, 004. 410, 012. 442, 012. I think that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one, 442. So that's it. The rest of the settings, I am using the colors 50, warm 50. Very important. These are settings are with warm 50. And I'm just using HGIG. You see here, HGIG, screen brightness 50. And I am also using the game genre presets, so I have control over this sharpness slider, which works better for games. If you want to get some sharpness in some blurry games, not on this one, this game is okay. Not like spectacular, but it's okay. I like the sharpness. I am using this FPS genre preset. Just make sure when you use that you change this black and the white stabilizer to the default 10, because otherwise just look terrible. But having this game genre preset here is going to allow you to have that nicer sharpness available. But this is also going to increase the color saturation. That's why I lowered the color saturation from 55, that color depth, from 55 to 50. Okay, that's the reason why. So yeah, give this a try. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. And I definitely recommend you, man, to play around with the calibration. You can always reset. If you messed it up, it looks terrible, reset and do it again. And maybe try starting your own calibration. Try it with my numbers and tell me, how different is your TV in comparison? Like what is that you see when you punch these numbers? Because each panel is slightly different. But I strongly believe that they are actually closer than what other reviewers might or TV calibrators might tell you. I think that they are actually almost the same. But I don't have experience with many TVs to confirm that. But I've seen even LG LCD TVs that have the same menus, same numbers on the service menu, so they should be very similar. But each panel is different, so you have to test it yourself on your own TV. So yeah, this is Elden Ring. I like the HDR on this game a lot. It's just the performance is atrocious. But what I'm using here to get the frame rate to 120 in some areas, of course, it goes below even 90 and 80 frames per second, even to the 70s due to a CPU, which is ridiculous. I am using a program, a mod on the PC called Flawless Widescreen. And with that program, there's a mod to uncap the FPS of Elden Ring, and also to add a wider field of view if you want, and some stability and LOD issues that the enemies on the distance are a lower frame rate. This program fixes that a little bit, and yeah, it's just some nice quality of life improvements with that program. And to get the frame rate, because I have a 3080, 12 gigabytes, and a 5800 X3D. Very important. This game is very CPU heavy. I am using NVIDIA scaling, resolution scaling, okay? NVIDIA image scaling, okay? And with that NVIDIA image scaling, I have to lower the sharpness to 0. Otherwise, the sharpness of the game with this TAA implementation and with some games, TAA implementations, you have to lower that sharpness of the NVIDIA image scaling to 0, because otherwise it just looks overly sharp and it's terrible. It's like broken, but it works well in this game. You just lower the sharpness to 0, you can get more performance, and yeah, it feels very, very, very responsive, very nice to play. And yeah, I haven't beat Elden Ring yet. I am never going to beat this game. I don't want to. Okay, I don't want to beat the game. I want this game to be infinite. I'm never gonna beat it. Okay, I'm going to explore every inch of Elden Ring, and I'm never going to beat it. Okay, I have the final boss there, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to beat it. And I'm trying to not level up, stock character, no fancy, nothing. So yeah, just the way I am. So let me know if you tried these settings, what you think about, if you did your own calibration, if you have any questions. I think I've learned a lot, so I need to revisit the SDR, HDR trick with what I know now. And I know I already said that was fine-tuned to perfection, but I am learning every day. So if I know better and I think I can get a better result, I'm gonna try it again, okay? But this time the results are not gonna be visible. It's so good already, but I'm still gonna try to improve it. So I'm going to revisit the SDR, HDR trick to see if there's any black level rays. I don't think so, because black frame insertion is killing that. But I'm still going to, instead of using that low, increase that low. I'm not gonna touch that low just in case. I don't see the black level rays, but I'm going to double check. So yeah, with what I know now, I'm going to revisit again all the settings. I already updated the blue light killer settings video. I updated the comments. I updated the description of the video with the new settings, so you can go back and check that out. I also posted that on a community post, the blue light killer settings for HDR. Fantastic settings. I mean, those settings are amazing for your eyes to play all day long or before going to sleep. It is just amazing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are gonna try those settings and they're never going to use anything else. It is so good for your eyes and it looks fantastic. So I already updated those settings with the best of my knowledge and abilities right now. And I pinned a comment there saying, hey, these settings have been updated. But I will also revisit the SDR, HDR trick. I will calibrate again SDR, and I'm going to match my Kuro. I'm gonna try to calibrate the Kuro the best I can. On the Kuro Plasma, I don't have all this, options for calibration. I wish I would get a tremendous result with the Kuro. I don't have controls to get this level of performance, unfortunately, but I'm gonna try my best. So I will calibrate SDR, revisit the SDR HDR trick with this calibration, and maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a calibration for each preset. So I can give you in a summary video, a summary calibration of your LG OLED. I can give you, and also for me, I want to have a different calibration for each preset. For people who actually use the TV to watch movies and shows and all of that, which I don't. I just play games. So for me, Game Optimizer, that's it. I don't use anything else. So I might have Game Optimizer with these settings and have Filmmaker mode with the blue light killer settings for when I'm gonna watch something on the TV, which is almost never. But I also want to have those blue light killer settings on Game Optimizer. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to set those settings with the color control app. So I don't have to be switching calibrations on the same Game Optimizer mode. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. With the color control app, you can basically set each game to have a specific settings. Okay, so then you just, when you open the game, the calibration settings of your TV change and you don't have to tweak any settings. Okay, and in that way you can tweak the black level if the game has a black level raise, so you don't have to worry again when you're switching from one game to the other. You don't have to remember what kind of black level raise this game has, and if it doesn't, switch it back and forth. So I will do that video, but because I like changing settings so much, I have that video on the pipeline and it never comes. But I will do it at some point. But the other thing I can do is just have two HDMI cables from my TV to the GPU. And then on one of the inputs, I have the HDR calibration, which is this one. And on the second HDMI input, have the game optimizer mode with the blue light killer settings. So the only thing that I have to do is to change the input of the TV. So the GPU has two outs, and on the display settings, I can say show only on one or show only on two. So basically, Windows thinks that I have two displays connected to my GPU because my GPU has two HDMI cables out. Okay, and then I just select the one that I want to use. So if I'm gonna have on one these settings and on the second the blue light killer settings, that would be another way to use it, and I might do that. But with the CRU app, with the color control app, I can set that up with the same input. And of course, the reason why I have to use the same input is because different inputs, and I'm talking about that, is because we only have one game optimizer mode, and to get the best input lag, you have to use game optimizer mode. I cannot have a different preset on each one and then play games with that because the input lag is not good. So that's how I have to do it. So yeah, but ultimately, what I was saying, ultimately I want to have a different calibration for each picture preset. So I have vivid mode with the wildest colors before we get clipping, and yeah, have like one for sports and something like that, and for SDR also. So I can do like a video showing you a full setup for your LG OLED. And of course, you have to double check those settings and better do it yourself. That's why I explain you my thoughts process and my criteria. So if you know better, you can tell me, hey, actually it is better to do it this way, so we can all learn. And also, so you can understand the process, so you can do it yourself, which is the best when you do it yourself. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.